Hi, so we are going to do our 4 different compositions for the illustration project. And this is how you're planning out your project, right? You don't want to just go into painting because what if you don't like the way the composition turns out and then you've wasted paint and time? So making composition thumbnails is what helps you get ready and practice different ideas without a lot of effort or time being wasted. So some people like to measure them out so they're the exact size of the paper, and you can completely do that. That's just not how my brain works. So I just kind of eyeball it, but you do whatever makes sense for you. So I'm going to try them in a couple different orientations. So this is called a portrait orientation because typically portraits would be painted going this way. And then, the more horizontal orientation is known as landscape. I mean, you can see this in like Word documents and Google Docs too. So try a couple, at least one of each. You could also try just like a square. So you want to make sure to make the, outside rectangle or square so that you're understanding where your composition begins and ends. So whatever size you end up using, just make sure you make the edges around it. So what's really important about this is that your compositions, all of them, all 4 of them, need to have simple shapes. I want you to use everything that we've been learning about shapes and design and the principles of design to create these compositions, the building blocks of the compositions, right? So you can end up making yours detailed and more realistic or representational. Yours can be more abstracted or stylized, but they should all, no matter what the end result looks like, start from these simple shapes using the principles of design. So I know what I want to do. I want to do sort of like a landscape and with a sunset in the background. And so I actually first, before I started this, just for full transparency, made this kind of really quick sketch, obviously, because I'm filming it. I always write a lot on my composition thumbnails. So this would be like maybe a first step for me, and then I'd refine it again before going on to starting the painting. So I want like the hills coming in from the side and sort of meeting somewhere in the middle. So I'm thinking about these big triangle shapes, but also having them sort of curved. I don't know if I want that to go all the way to the edge. So I'm just thinking about how I'm breaking up this triangle. And I'm thinking about how obviously mountains work, but also all the different shapes. Now I've created another triangle here and broken up this bottom section. And I might do another one here. So this shape is becoming a little weird to me, like it looks all too cramped or something. So I might think about how that's gonna work. And like, do these attach? So I'm just really thinking about my shapes first. That's the whole point. And it might come down like this. And then I want like the sunset. I'm really breaking it down into simple shapes. And remember, you have to have some lettering in this. So it can be a minimum of 2 letters, and the lettering has to fit inside a shape. So I know I want mine just to say hi. That was my first word when I was a kid. So it's a word I always just love. And what I mean about your lettering fitting into this shape is, so I'm making this shape here, this kind of curved triangle shape, and the lettering should just take up this shape. And I'm keeping it really simple. And then I want to think about, and then I'm refining these shapes, how they all connect to that shape. And so these will be mountains and sunset. And I don't know if I love that. I'm gonna keep going. I'm thinking of making it like a little more angular and more stylized, so people will know they're mountains because of the colors and stuff, but maybe it's a little more like the design is a little more angular instead of all the curves. So just try, even if you think you like the first one, I want you to keep trying breaking down your composition into different shapes. Kind of want this to be more dramatic. So like if these are representing mountains, they feel like they're coming around you. And then the circle, the curved lines could be for the sun. I'm just gonna write yellow here. And then I did like the position of that, so I'm gonna just include my lettering in this shape. And this is all I mean about fitting the lettering in the shape. You have a shape that is where the lettering goes, right? So that could be, you could make more complex shapes about where the lettering goes. I'm gonna start with a triangle for the sky on this one. So, you know, your illustration should have a clear theme or idea. Mine, I'm going off some of those national parks posters that I showed in the warm-up. So I'm thinking about more of a landscape, but yours could represent a band. It could be a greeting card. It could represent a place. It could represent an imaginary place. And another important thing is that you can't use any copyrighted material. So if you're making a poster or an advertisement, you know, you couldn't use a car that's a real car in real life because that design of the car has a copyright on it. You couldn't do like Mickey Mouse ears because those are copyrighted for Disney, right? So I want you to create something that's original and doesn't have any copyright on it. So something that's yours. Of course, you're using the mood board for inspiration, but then you're coming in here to make it your own. And that's why another reason these compositions are so important, these composition sketches. So you could have your text fit, I'm just putting green in here because for green mountains. You could have your text fit in something like this. And, you know, even the bottom of the E could be like that, you know, and this isn't what the final text will look like. It'll be more stylized, but you can just start to work out, you know, and this is a really cool way to fit your text into a shape, you know, and then I could put like, Your poster could be about a color. It could be about green. You could add more letters, of course. You only have to do 2. I'm gonna try this one in the landscape, like way more curvy, these like sort of different shapes. So, you know, I am breaking this up into a triangle, but I'm adding more organic shape. Maybe it needs one more. And then I'm stuck on the sunset thing. So this is what I'm expecting from you. I'm expecting a composition broken up into shapes. You can make notes if you want, and then make sure each one is different, that there's some theme or idea. You have the strong composition using shapes, and that there's lettering in each one. The lettering can be whatever you want. The idea, concept can be whatever you want. It just has to fit within one of these shapes. So I could do, you know, and really be creative with this. You know, this is your chance to make something, if you want to get more realistic, if you want to really dive into the more abstract of it, you know, have fun with this and use your imagination. So when you have a composition that you like, or you can do this for all of them, you can start adding details. Like I know I want my mountains in the background to be blue. So I just like to write notes for myself. And then I know I want to do like a fall scene. So the foreground mountains, I want to have those trees in them from my from my mood board. So I'm just gonna kind of make a little suggestion. And you know, these are shapes too. These are shapes within the shape. So I can have some tree trunks here, and then the ones in the foreground would be bigger, right? Because this mountain would be closer to us and maybe overlapping a little bit. So this is where I could do maybe some of that stuff that I was admiring that other illustrators were doing with the tree trunks and the branches. And then these could be smaller to sort of look like the background. And I think I could have maybe some evergreen shapes up here and some more trees all overlapping. And I had picked out on my mood board some lettering that I liked. So I'm not going to exactly copy it, but I'm going to give myself an idea. And sometimes if it doesn't fit in here, this is why I leave some space on the side. I'll come off and make it a little bigger just so I have some more space. So how I do lettering, especially when I'm fitting it into a shape like this, is I get just the one line shape of it, right? The skeleton, the bones, and then I build off from there. So I'm giving myself enough space to like double up these lines. So I'm starting with the straight lines, and I can always curve them later. And I kind of want it to go, I like when they go up like that. And then this one's gonna get smaller, and it's okay if it overlaps your shape a little bit. We're just, you know, the shape is giving us a basic foundation for how your text is gonna sit and how it's gonna fit into this composition. And then this I want to be, like I'm giving it little feet, I think is what I liked from the text I picked out, and make this a lot bigger. And then I think of this, I could have fun with the exclamation point because it's really just a simple triangle, and I can really have it fit into this shape that I created. And there's these two circles here that are kind of on a diagonal that I like. And you could even do another one, you know, you can fill stuff in or whatever you want. And then the font I picked out did have a little like this thing on it. I don't know what these are called. I'm sure they have a name. I don't know if I want to do that in my final, but I'm just going to experiment with it. I don't know if it would go on this one. We'll see. This might be a little too like angular for my design, but we'll see. And I know I'm going to go with this one. I like this composition. I might make some of these lines a little more curved, but I like the way this is laid out. So add any details you want to add to yours in your shapes, and you can do stuff like this to kind of figure out where your lettering is going to go, but really get it all worked out before we move on to the painting part.